Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories this hour. In the aftermath of the removal of former Speaker Mudashiru Obasa, Lagos Assembly tightened security as police promise peaceful plenary today. 22 soldiers, over 70 insurgents killed in ongoing clearance operations in Borno State. Kenyan president announces summit between leaders of Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo over Eastern DRC crisis. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in East Africa, where President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, for the Mission 300 Africa Energy Summit, which begins on 27th January. He landed at 10:20 p.m. local time, which is 8:20 p.m. Nigerian time, and was welcomed by Tanzanian Foreign Minister Mahmoud Thabit Kombo and Nigerian Charge d'Affaires Ambassador Salisu Suleiman. The two-day summit, hosted by Tanzania in collaboration with the African Union, African Development Bank, and World Bank, focuses on achieving universal energy access for 300 million Africans by 2030. Tinubu will present Nigeria's energy strategy and reaffirm its commitment to clean energy initiatives. To security matters, the Defense Headquarters has confirmed that troops of Operation HADIN killed over 70 insurgents, including 3 key commanders in ongoing clearance operations in Borno State. This is contained in a statement made available to newsmen and signed by the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba. The operation, targeting the notorious Timbuktu Triangle, began on 16 January. Neutralized commanders, including Talha, a Special Forces leader, Malam Umar, an operations commander, and Abu Yazid, a brigade commander. 9 insurgents deployed suicide bombers, explosive-laden vehicles, and drones, but troops successfully countered these tactics. However, 22 soldiers lost their lives and several others sustained injuries. The military urges the media to withhold names of fallen soldiers to ensure next of kin notifications are completed. Still on security matters, the Anambra State government has demolished a hideout used by kidnappers in its ongoing efforts to combat criminal activities in the state. The building, disguised as a hotel, was located along the Onitsha-Owerri Road in Oba Idemili South local government area. Identified as Udoka Golden Point Hotel, also known as the Cruise Hotel, the establishment was reportedly used for kidnappings and other illicit activities. In a statement released Saturday, the Anambra State New Media revealed that the hotel contained over 30 partitioned graves. The demolition marks a significant step in the state's fight against crime and efforts to restore safety in the region. Yobe State Governor Maimala Buni assures the military and other security agencies of his administration's support to combat an insurgency. Now, the government made the pledge in Damaturu on Sunday during a courtesy visit by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Olatubosun Oluyede, to the government house. In a statement by his media aide, Momo Mohammed, Buni commends the military's efforts in securing the state, noting that all 17 local government areas are now accessible. Lieutenant General Oluyede reaffirms the Army's commitment to ending insurgency, calling for political and public support. He praises the Yobe government for its cooperation and vows to leverage his experience to achieve lasting peace in the region. Afe Babalola, a senior advocate of Nigeria, has withdrawn the criminal defamation suit filed against author and lawyer Dele Farotimi. Babalola had previously petitioned the Ekiti State Police, alleging that Farotimi defamed him in his book, Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. This petition led to Farotimi's arrest and subsequent trial for alleged criminal defamation and cyberbullying. In the early hours of Monday, the legal icon decided to withdraw the case following the intervention of the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, and other prominent traditional leaders. Babalola expressed his dismay over Farotimi's accusation that he won all his cases through corrupt practices, which was why he initially rejected earlier pleas to drop the case. However, he ultimately agreed to the intervention of the revered traditional authorities. We are now joined by lawyer and activist Justice Ojieno. Justice joins us from our studio here in Lagos to discuss this development. Thank you so much for joining us, Justice.
It's a pleasure to join you, Dasha.
Now, Mr. Ojieno, how did the news of the withdrawal come to you?
I'm extremely elated. And it so happened, it's such a coincidence that the time I heard that he was being picked up, I was also on air with Mazino on this illustrious station. So it's a very, very happy thing for me, so long as the dirty linen of the judiciary in Nigeria is not put in public, is not on trial. I feel that there are better ways to handle or manage the challenges that the system is having than for everything to be put in the open view and for it to be perceived as though Mr. Dele Farotimi is being persecuted, whilst the illustrious image too of Mr. Afe Babalola is being said to have been also bashed in a very, very, I want to say, in a very, very not so acceptable or palatable way. So it's not something I'm very, very happy about. So I'm very, very happy that the trial of Mr. Dele Farotimi is not something that's going to be concluded, and we are not going to be looking towards him being maybe incarcerated or not incarcerated at some point. So at this stage, I'm so super excited, and I'm even finding it hard to control my happiness.
It feels like such a relief indeed. Now let's talk about the implications of the withdrawal. In the light of, criminal justice system, does Babalola have the sole right to drop the case without the involvement of the state? That hence Farotimi was arraigned on criminal grounds. Okay,
we usually say that when it comes to criminal matters, as different from civil matters, the case belongs to the state. It is usually the state against Mr. Dele Farotimi in one way or the other. Sometimes it is couched as the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or it is couched as the state of Ekiti or Ekiti State against Dele Farotimi, depending on which of the cases we are presently looking at. So with respect to the case instituted by the states, we usually say that it is only the state that has the power to actually withdraw the case against a Mr. Dele Farotimi, for example. But that is when we are looking at it formally. We must also remember that usually the complainant is the one pressing charges, and the complainant actually can decide to throw a lot of cogs in the wheel when the trial comes up proper. So that is why the courts will usually just also accept, and the law also gives the way for the complainant to withdraw charges. And when the complainant withdraws charges, even though the case is that of the state almost like a domino just falls in place and follows suit, especially when it is not a case that really attacks public policy. If it is a case that attacks public policy, for example, if it is a rape case or it's a murder case, if the complainant says he's withdrawing the case, sometimes the state will still say, yeah, we now have to remind you that this case belongs to us and it is not your own. So in that kind of situation, when it really dastardly affects public policy, the state will usually still want to press on with the case despite the fact that the complainant has stopped to press charges.
All right, but then, in this case, what about in Farotimi's case? Will Farotimi be within his rights, if he decides to push back for damages?
With what I'm seeing on ground, I feel that it may be a difficult one. because I don't see him doing that. But as for if we are looking at it legalistically, that whether it's within his right to, definitely everybody is within their rights to seek for any sort of relief or press for any sort of, if he wants to seek damages for, maybe he's saying that his right to freedom of his movement pursuant to Section 35 of our Constitution has been hampered or tampered with. He too has a right to actually press for that, but realistically speaking, I don't see that being the case.
All right, now speaking of you as a lawyer now, what would you make of the case? Do you think that, Farotimi was overreaching in his allegations?
Oh, that's a difficult one for me to say, but it's really difficult, and I'm saying this because I do not see him just a la carte going into thin air to manufacture what he alleged to have been the case. I feel that in order for him to have alleged, being a very, very reasonable person, there is serious possibility that he has evidence to back it up. So it's also possible that it may be the way he perceived it. So a lot of give and takes, a lot of speculations and all can actually really go into this. So if you leave me to my own will, I feel that maybe he has something, and it's very, very also possible that it may not also be as he perceived it, that it eventually went down. So it's neither here nor there. It's both here also and also there.
Okay, since it's neither here nor there, what advice would you have for both parties?
First, I feel that both parties, in some form or the other, have eaten the humble pie. In some form or the other, have proven that they are actually persons that can be appealed to and spoken to, because this influence of telling Mr. Dele Farotimi to not continue with this case is with the revered, my ancestor-in-law, the revered Afebawalola, to not continue with the case. It didn't start today. I'm very, very happy that eventually he also yielded to the appeals by numerous illustrious Nigerians. And I'm also very, very happy with the way Mr. Dele Farotimi too has approached the case. Everything that the court told him to do, he shouldn't talk to the media and all on this case, he also abided by it. So I'm very, very happy with the way both parties have actually handled the situation. I also pray that it continues in this way, and whenever wrongs are to be alleged against the judiciary, we should also still look for other ways to deal with it in a way that it doesn't put our judiciary in a terrible, terrible light, because it is about the only judiciary that we have, and it is the only hope that the common man has. And if a person that is put in the situation of Mr. Dele Farotimi, for example, if he has the truth to say about maybe one judge or the other, one big lawyer or the other, that are actually trying to pull the system down, or they are trying to do wrong by the system, I feel that they should be encouraged and they should be allowed to come up with such information, so that it will all go well for all of us, because it is in the best interest of all Nigerians that the judiciary is known to be able to deal without bias in any form, regardless of whether a person is highly placed or not.
Splendid advice there. Thank you so much, Justice, for speaking to us on this particular issue.
It's my pleasure.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, the news continues. Stay with us. Security has been significantly increased at the Lagos State House of Assembly complex ahead of Monday's plenary session, amid speculation of potential unrest following the recent removal of former Speaker Mudashiru Obasa. Obasa, who was removed from office on January 13 after facing allegations of misconduct and financial misappropriation, has maintained that he remains the legitimate Speaker of the House. Now, this has raised concerns about potential disruptions in the legislative process, prompting a heightened security presence. The new Speaker, Mojisola Miranda, has presided over the past two plenary sessions since Obasa's removal. Monday's session will be the third under her leadership. The Lagos State Command, that's the police command, has assured the public that adequate security measures are in place to ensure a peaceful and orderly conduct of the plenary session. Now to politics. Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has urged FCT Minister Nyesom Wike to resign from the PDP over allegations of anti-party activities and aligning officially with the APC. Mohammed accused Wike of serving APC interests and attempting to tarnish his reputation. He labeled Wike a transactional politician whose loyalty shifts from personal ambition. In response, Wike's media aide dismissed the claims, accusing Mohammed of lacking leadership as PDP Governors Forum chairman. Mohammed, through his media advisor, described Wike's attacks as reckless and divisive, alleging a history of betrayal within the PDP. The Bauchi governor called for unity within the party, urging genuine members to work towards defeating the APC in 2027. We stay with politics, where stakeholders from the Justice Forum in Alimosho Federal Constituency of Lagos State gathered to demonstrate their political strength and readiness for the upcoming local government and 2027 general elections. Under the leadership of former Deputy Governor Adejoke Orelokpe Adefulire, the event highlighted the party's grassroots mobilization efforts and commitment to unity. Speaking during the event, Chief Organizer and State Officer for Justice Forum, Honorable Akim Bashiru, and other leaders say the gathering was to showcase the strength as a leading APC group in Alimosho.
This event for us is a constituency meeting to showcase our strength as a leading APC group in Alimosho. It is also an opportunity for us to mobilize people and assure our Progressive Congress and by extension Mr. President that Alimosho is ready to take the leadership in terms of galvanizing votes for subsequent electoral victories as far as Alimosho is concerned.
When we are talking about caucus is a means to drive more members into the party. The party is supreme, but as we are celebrating our day today and having our meeting, we are pulling more members, new members into the party.
Because we are a popular party, well run and well provided for by our leader in Alimosho, the leader of the federal constituency, Princess Adejoke Orelokpe Adefulure. She's a million in a woman, and amazing. And her leadership has gotten the Alimosho to where it is today.
In a celebration of culture, unity and tradition, the Chinese community in Lagos came together with Nigerians to mark the Chinese New Year, also known as the Spring Festival. Now, the event not only highlighted the shared cultural heritage of both nations, but also reinforced the deep ties between Nigeria and China. Let's take a look.
The celebration of the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China offered a colorful mix of cultural dances and music, blending the rich heritages of Nigeria and China. The Consulate General of the People's Republic of China in Lagos spoke about how memorable the celebration was and its impact on Nigeria-China relations.
We think that China and Nigeria were family, and especially with so many Chinese community, they not only support the local business or social development, but also do the charity events.
Government officials and guests also reflected on how African leaders can leverage opportunities presented by the Chinese government to foster industrial growth and economic development across the continent.
I'll call the attention of the African presidents or African leaders to look at the deliberation, to look at the implementation of the FOCAP, to look inward how to take advantage of the pledge made by President Xi Jinping to the African countries of about $51 billion, to look inward how to take advantage of that to unbundle the underdevelopment happening in Africa.
We also give them 100,000 for the support. All these things we are most appreciate for Nigeria friends. Thank you so much, and God bless Nigeria, God bless China.
The Chinese New Year celebration underscored the importance of cultural exchange and partnership in strengthening bilateral ties.
Operatives of the NDLEA have intercepted a shipment of cannabis concealed in a duvet destined for the UK. Now, the agency's spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, revealed Sunday that the consignment, weighing 3.5 kilograms, was seized at Lagos Murtala Mohammed Airport. 2 suspects at Dakole Sunday and Austin Balogun were arrested. Balogun admitted he was paid 700,000 naira to cargo the shipment. Meanwhile, a raid in Ikorodu uncovered weapons and 7 liters of psychoactive drink called Scoochies. 2 suspects were arrested. Another operation in Mushin yielded 47 kilograms of skunk and 25.46 kilograms of nitrous oxide. The NDLEA continues to intensify its crackdown on drug trafficking and abuse nationwide. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, is raising the alarm over a surge in cases of severe acute malnutrition in Nigeria's northeast and northwest regions, a crisis it says affects over 5 million children. UNICEF's representative in Nigeria, Christian Munduate, disclosed this during a visit to Zamfara State in northwest Nigeria. Now, News Central Saged Ibrahim reports from Zamfara, where he monitored the activities of the UNICEF delegation.
Christian Munduate and her team began their visit at Gidandawa Bungudu Model Primary School, where she interacted with children and stakeholders. The team then proceeded to the Dr. Karima Primary Health Care Center, where UNICEF is running an outpatient therapeutic program center.
Based on the severity of the case, they are managed based on that as outpatient. Those who have severe cases are referred to the stabilization center.
Another stop was the stabilization center at Yarima Bakura General Hospital. These field visits to project sites in Zamfara highlighted the severity of the situation.
If she doesn't want to see her future baby sick as well, she has to breastfeed.
The revelations are alarming. In Zamfara State alone, 250,000 children, or 1 in 10, are suffering from severe acute malnutrition, with approximately 8 million babies born annually in Nigeria. Munduate warned that these figures could rise further.
We saw evidence and documentation that unfortunately some of them had died, couldn't make it. We want to highlight the urgent need to put a priority on children.
UNICEF's findings indicate that 50% of Nigeria's population, around 110 million people, are children. Of these, 40% under age 5 are stunted, while 1 in 4 children is out of school. However, Munduate noted some positive developments.
The number of children under 5 years for every 1,000 live births it has declined. Another news is that Zamfara is keeping the status of 0 polio cases. I am a true believer that if you have the political will and determination, then things can change.
Parents, teachers, and healthcare workers underscore the urgent need for increased investment in child welfare.
Honestly, I don't feel happy because when you have a child that is fine and is healthy, you'll be happy. But when the child is always sick and you always have to be in the hospital, it's very, very sad, and I hope the situation improves.
We need library, we need additional structures, we need gadgets for teaching, and more methodologies.
Flux of malnutrition now is high due to the economy. As a farmer, during the planting season, they take all of their plants or their seeds to the farm to plant. So mostly they don't have food at all. They now, as a farmer that used to have food, they now go to market and buy. So then they have to be prioritizing what to buy and what to not to buy.
UNICEF estimates that addressing the needs of Nigeria's most vulnerable states, including Sokoto, Zamfara, and Katsina, will require over $250 million. More than $100 million is needed for these 3 states alone to fund essential programs for children in the region. In Gusau, the Zamfara state capital, Sadio Ibrahim for News Central.
Now, following recent protests in Nigeria, citizens and the government have been blamed for failing to use protests to engage each other and improve governance in the country. This followed a recent report released by the Kimpact Development Initiative, which interrogated several protests in the country and their impact on nation building. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this.
Since the amalgamation of Nigeria in 1914, the country has had a long history of protests, ranging from the Aba Women's Riots of 1929 during the colonial era to the first labor strike of 1945 against poor wages, and the violent student agitation known as Ali Must Go on April 17, 1978. Recent protests like the #EndSARS protest in 2020 and the #EndBadGovernance protest of August 2024 have continued to elicit diverse reactions nationwide. While these civic actions have played a significant role in shaping Nigeria's political and socio-economic landscape, the factors that drive protest, however, continue to persist.
The court in Nigeria, and it has not been appealed against, in AMPP and AIG of police, IGP of police, yes, has ruled that it's a right, constitutional right for Nigerians to protest.
To assess and understand the drivers of protest in Nigeria, particularly the recent #EndBadGovernance protest of August 2024, stakeholders from across various sectors have converged on the nation's capital, Abuja.
What I have also realized over time is that there are always suspicions around protests. So there are questions of trust, and there are questions of who owns this agenda. And we saw a lot of that even with the #EndBadGovernance. On one side, the take-it-back says, this is our protest. On the other side, some Nigerian people are saying, no, there is a problem.
The Nigerian police force are members and citizens of Nigeria. It's like throwing stone into a marketplace. It might hit your parents, your mom, or your siblings.
In recent time, why is it that protest has not become that impactful?
The gathering also featured the presentation of findings regarding the #EndBadGovernance protest, highlighting the negligence on the part of both the government and citizens in utilizing protest as a negotiation tool.
Our study delved into the complexities and implications of protests in Nigeria, examining critical dimensions such as regional responses, governance implication, human rights, the rule of law, and the transformative role of social media.
From the Aba Women's Riot in 1929 to demonstrations today, stakeholders have agreed that protests can serve as a tool for national development. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idunk Joseph.
Coming up, fighting near DR Congo's Goma region intensifies amid diplomatic fallout. This and more coming shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now away from Nigeria, Kenyan President William Ruto on Sunday announced a summit between the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo over the crisis in eastern DR Congo within the next 2 days. Ruto thanked DR Congo's Etienne Tshisekedi and Rwanda's Paul Kagame for agreeing to attend the extraordinary East African Community Summit within the next 48 hours. Heavy clashes between Congolese forces and Rwandan-backed M23 fighters in eastern DRC edged closer to Goma on Sunday as the UN Security Council scheduled an emergency meeting. Amid escalating violence, both the DRC and Rwanda withdrew their diplomats, further straining relations.
Consequently, and having consulted with the heads of state of our region, we will be convening an extraordinary East African Community Summit within the next 48 hours to facilitate and to deliberate on this crisis and chart a way forward. This is in line with the East African Community Summit's decision of November 2024, which called for constructive engagement to address this conflict. I thank both President Tshisekedi and President Kagame for their confirmed participation in this summit. The escalating conflict and deteriorating situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo are a grave concern to the people and governments of East Africa. Noting the worsening humanitarian crisis exacerbated by ongoing military actions, including the closure of airspace in Goma, I call for the immediate and unconditional cessation of hostilities.
In a shocking revelation, convicted murderer Janus Wallace has stated that he feels no remorse for killing South African Communist Party leader Chris Hani. Wallace was imprisoned for 30 years following the assassination of Chris Hani. Hani was shot outside his home in Dawn Park, Boksburg, on 10th April 1993. His assassination had a profound impact on South Africa's political landscape and was a pivotal moment during the transition from apartheid to democracy. In an exclusive interview aired on Sunday by ENCA, Wallace expressed controversial views, claiming that he believes black people are not equipped to rule a country. He further asserted that he considers white people to be a superior race.
Will not beat around the bush. Okay, I agree because it's proven that white people can run the country. And it's proof that black people in most, besides the example which I given you of Biafra and things, they generally can't do that. They haven't got capacity, and you hear it more and more from black people themselves. If you call it superiority, doesn't mean that you have to right to oppress them in any way. And I don't take the not having voting rights oppression.
So you don't think black people should have the right to vote?
should right to vote in their homelands.
In other news from around the world, the U.S. under President Donald Trump has paused funding for the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, raising concerns for global HIV/AIDS efforts. Now, since 2003, PEPFAR has contributed over $85 billion to combat the disease, saving millions of lives in more than 50 countries, including Nigeria, which received over $6 billion. However, recent funding cuts have sparked fears about Nigeria's ability to sustain its progress. A source at the Institute of Human Virology, Nigeria, pointed out that the Nigerian government has not fully taken over HIV and malaria programs, leading to reduced American assistance, and this funding freeze, which affects both new and ongoing initiatives, threatens the health of over 1 million Nigerians who rely on PEPFAR for life-saving treatment. Experts warn that the situation could worsen without renewed support. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by a public affairs analyst, Theophilus Akatuba. Thank you for joining us on the news, Theophilus.
Yeah, good morning to you. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure. Now, can you speak to us on the wide-reaching or the long-term consequences of PEPFAR funding pause for Nigeria's HIV/AIDS response?
Well, the first, there will be, reduction in access to HIV treatment, which is being funded by this program. It's going to increase HIV, transmission, because all supports that help to, increase and awareness and education will disappear. It will also strain the healthcare sector in no small way, because you don't have funding and the people will keep coming in. The truth is that until you really have someone who is in this bracket of health need, you will not know the impact of some of this free treatment and free support that the PEPFAR provides. Can you believe it? That such huge amount of money comes into the country to support this, health needs of people who are in need of this particular, requirement. And you see that it affects the population. It will affect the population in a very, big way. And it's so sudden that the health care and those who benefit from this are caught napping. And I feel very, very, that it's going to have very far-reaching consequences.
All right, now, speaking of, its effect when it comes to access to treatment, prevention, and also care services for people living with HIV, are there steps that you would suggest the government takes to ensure the sustainability of HIV/AIDS programs?
Yes, the government, this is an emergency for all of those who are in that sector. The government must step in now with alternative funding mechanism so that those who are on this program, who are beneficiaries, systems and institutions that are supported, including all the research institutions and the researches that are going on, should be sustained. This would place an economic strain on the government, but it's something that needs to be done so that we don't have we don't suffer the consequences of the withdrawal of this funding. But the good news is for 90 days, and that after 90 days, this will be reviewed. Now, the reason this is stopped is to be sure that this fund is being utilized for its purpose, because they have received some reports that some people have diverted the fund to fund abortion and the promotion of abortion.
Well, 90 days, equivalent to 3 months. Do you think that, the funding cuts in that time could lead to a resurgence of HIV/AIDS in Nigeria and other countries that rely on PEPFAR for support?
Yes, it's a possibility, because once you are not creating the required awareness, you are not funding all the free distribution of condoms, and you are not funding antiretroviral that are given to ensure that the infection does not, progress. This will lead to a breakdown of that system, and is likely to increase the spread, because those who are not curtailing themselves, who are not taking medications, will unleash themselves on society, and that is a big possibility.
All right, well, thank you so much, Theophilus, for speaking to us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And now in the world of sports, Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen has taken legal action against the Turkish journalist who accused him of assaulting him at an African restaurant 2 weeks ago, with the hearing expected to start on Monday. The on-loan Napoli striker has been enjoying a new lease of life in the Turkish Super League, leading Galatasaray's charge in the Turkish top flight and the UEFA Europa League with goals and assists, until he was entangled in the controversy with the journalists last week. Now, Tolga Bozduman, the Turkish journalist, recently accused Osimhen of assaulting him when he tried to take pictures of the Super Eagles star after Galatasaray's 3-3 draw against Dynamo Kyiv 2 weeks ago. The striker has since denied the allegations. Supporters of Nigerian activist Omoyele Sowore have vowed to stage a mass occupation of the Nigerian police force headquarters in Abuja. Now, this follows an invitation extended to Sowore by the Inspector General of Police over an alleged criminal investigation. Joining us, we have Joshua Marai in Abuja to give us an update on this. Hello, Joshua. Thank you so much for joining. Can you hear me? All right, Joshua, if you can hear me, can you paint us a picture of the situation there?
Well, I'm currently at the intersection at the Nigeria Police Force headquarters here in Abuja. Well, it is unusual. What we are seeing today is unusual, considering the situation, the security situation here in the federal capital, and as regards to the Nigerian Police Force headquarters. On my right-hand side, you can see stationed policemen actively ready with their arms, tear gas canisters, and this is unusual. This site here is unusual today. This place is being barricaded. This is, however, this is not unconnected to the fact that we are expecting visitors here. When I mean visitors, earlier last week, the president of Omoyele Sowore was invited by the Inspector General of Police for an alleged criminal investigation. We are expecting these supporters here today at 9 a.m., but unfortunately, they are nowhere to be found. We are still expecting them. We are expecting even himself, the person of Omoyele Sowore. We are still expecting his presence. A quick chat with one of the policemen who is on ground actually told us that nothing, they've experienced nothing, they saw nobody today here. And this place is as it is from the early hours of today since they've been here.
All right, well, thank you, Joshua, for that update. We'll reach out to you in our subsequent bulletin for more on this. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that in the aftermath of the removal of former Speaker Mudashiru Obasa, Lagos Assembly tightens security as police promise peaceful plenary today. We also told you that 22 soldiers and over 70 insurgents killed in ongoing clearance operations in Borno State. Finally, you heard that Kenyan president announces summit between leaders of Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo over Eastern DRC crisis. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.